Hey, back with Diane Fu talking about stabilization, pressurization strategies that make for more consistent, more stable lifting that actually lifts more weights. Right? Because it's always about that. It's not, you may or may not get hurt, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're just thinking that, hey, what are the best ways to organize your body to generate the most force the longest, with the least sort of cost on the session? That's what we're trying to do, right? So we can argue about pain or no pain, but that's not the argument we're having. We're talking about, does this technique give me the most power the most often for the most number of reps, right? So one of the things that we see with our strongest athletes, we'll use Hafthor, the mountain, for example, just deadlifting 1,000,000 pounds, like 1,100 or something. So fun. For a gazillion, right? What was it? It was what did he pull, 500 kilos? Something like that? It was just a freakish pull. Apologies if it was more than that. But what I want to show you is a strategy that those big guys use that we can sort of wrap our heads around. So one of the things that we think is normative range is if I have Diane on her back real quick, right? This is a normative range. This isn't super crazy amount of range. This is normative base range. She should be able to lift this leg straight up, keeping the leg straight, and get to 90 degrees. Straighten your leg out a little more. Perfect. So that's straight up and down. Can you do it with the other leg too? No problem. Diane is cold. Easily crush that. But you can see that she doesn't struggle. She can get to that end range position. That's 90. If she sat up and did a long sit, she can get her back flat in this position, in this shape at 90 degrees. And even Greg Cook would say, hey, look, 80 degrees is still full range there because the stabilization on the spine, because she's got to use some of the structures of her pelvis to hold this position. But still, guess what? It's still easy for her in this shape. If she's totally rounded here and struggling to sit up in this position, guess what her setup is going to look like on the deadlift? It's going to look a little funny. You may have seen this. We get into downward dog for us. Put your hands on this side. Oh, look, it's like downward dog. Look, she can get straight here. She's actually past 90, but still flat. So the idea here is you'll see that people have recognized this pattern. You're doing Eldoa, back against on the floor, leg straight up on the wall. That's a 90-degree position. Stiff-legged deadlift, whatever. So one of the things that our strong kids are really good at is they actually have a full hip hinge. They may not have more than that, but they've got that. So what we see them doing is identifying positions where they can get the straps on, get organized, and still pressurize. And this may work for you. Check this out. So if you happen to be a stiff guy or a stiff person, hey, we're equal opportunity stiffness here. One of the things that you'll see that these people are doing when they're lifting is that they will pressurize with the legs straight in a hip hinge. They'll grab the bar because they've got to put the straps on, and they'll roll the bar away a little bit. Now look what happened here. We're still roughly at 90 where we don't have a ton of loads. If we're missing hip flexion and start to bring the butt down into these positions, then we try to straighten the back and pressurize. We start to add a lot of sort of hidden vampire loads on the system. The hip may be pushing the lumbar back. We're starting to add in a whole bunch of loads that make it more difficult and complex for me instead of a simple hinge system. So with that hip high setup, and you'll see that a lot of deadlifters like to start in this position, it's because it's pretty easy. Look, we're back into zombie land, mid-range with the shoulders. Diane, you can move your hands out wherever you want to grab it, right? You can take a pretty big breath here. Listen to that size of that breath. Then she can back in and load into her deadlift from the top down, but from a hinge. So instead of just taking a breath and pressurizing, what we're seeing is that with straps, this may be a better strategy, or if you're a stiff guy, you can put a slight bend in the knee, still organize pretty well with the hips at this high position, back is relatively flat, then pressurize, then pull yourself into your starting position. Again, foot pressure is good, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea here, once again, how do we simplify the system to have the most organized spine that allows me to get the solution that I'm after with as little degradation to the system as possible, and how do I pressurize maximally in that position so that it's highly repeatable? That's your task.